Zardari being the man in a hurry, and he wants to be a president, and it's 9th of March when you have presidential elections in Pakistan, I guess, and he's set to return very easily. But tell us about Asif Ali Zardari. He's the man that everyone's kind of overlooked in this focus, when the focus has been on, Shehbaz, Nawaz, Maryam, and Bilawal, and of course Imran Khan.
Well, Asif Zardari pulled the strings from behind. He was acting very surreptitiously, talking to the stakeholders. And it's sad in Pakistan, to what extent is it true, we don't know, that the current scheme of things basically is the handiwork of Asif Zardari himself, that he had aimed to get back into the presidential palace, and that he basically nudged the Pakistan Muslim League into taking over the government, which is like a bed of thorns because there are multiple issues, and it's not going to be easy for the new government given the financial perilous situation. The $2 billion from China, this is the money that's already sitting in Pakistani account. This is just a rollover, but more pressing issue is the balance of payment that Pakistan, and the debt servicing that Pakistan is going to do, and the much needed structural reforms which should basically put Pakistan on the way to development and growth. And those reforms have been evasive just because the political leadership has not been acting as it should have, corresponding to the challenges that are arising out of a burgeoning population. So it's a very critical situation to be in. Now, how the new government tides over it, we will see. However, one point I would like to make, that no establishment probably would like to see political instability in the country, because if the country remains politically unstable, then how can that establishment basically hope to thrive and survive? So political stability is very much in the interest of the military establishment itself. However, it comes down to personal choices as to how a particular individual has handled the domestic and foreign policy. So as what we are hoping for is sort of a synergy of action between the military establishment and the civilian government, and particularly because the military has established a special investment facilitation council as a parallel economic development structure. So a lot will depend as to how long can the civilian government go along with this SIFC, which is being personally guided by the army chief and his associates.
So it's interesting that SIFC, the fact that how deeply invested the Pakistan military appears to be in economic reforms. And I was just thinking that a parallel with India would be if, the Indian military in 1991 kind of, came in and came up with an economic revival plan. But of course, that never happened. But Gul Sahab, this thing of, we had a 1991 moment in India where India kind of embarked on the path of economic reforms. Do you see this as Pakistan's 1991 moment, the fact that you have a very deeply unstable coalition government in place, and of course you have the deep state guiding this government through? Do you see this as required for that impetus for economic reforms and liberalization? That's going to be the number one priority for this new government.
I think there is no way around structural reforms. Without those structural reforms, I think this possibility of default and then sort of financial implosion would be staring us in the face. And now that the SIFC has come about and the IMF has also tied a lot of its funding to structural reforms, which basically are aimed at reforming the taxation culture here. Without that, it will be very difficult for any government, for any establishment to take the country forward. So the analogy perhaps is a good one, the analogy with India of 1991. In India, I think the political leadership basically decided, that there is no way around political reform. Here in this country, the political elites are more accustomed, more used to patronage, politics of patronage, of subsidies, of concessions. And that's why we haven't seen much progress so far. But now that we also have seen the results of the February 8 elections, which was an expression not only for Imran Khan, but also an expression against the forces of civil military forces of status quo. So one would hope that those who matter have learned their lessons and they will now put Pakistan on the path of structural reforms that can take the country forward.
Right. In fact, this point, Gul Saab, that we were just speaking of with Deepak earlier on, the possible return of Imran Khan. What happens to Imran Khan? Is there a possibility that he rides the storm out, the tenure of this government and the tenure of the army chief, of course, that's more important here, and he possibly comes back, engineers his return to power? What's your forecast on Imran Khan?
Oh, this is a very interesting question. I just recall my interaction with General Pervez Musharraf back in 2002, September. I asked him basically in a press conference, so why doesn't he allow Benazir Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif to return? Now imagine, this was 2002, September, and he said, well, they are convicted, people have not condoned their corruption,
Right.
people have not forgotten their corruption. And the same was said about Nawaz Sharif again,
Yes.
4 years ago. So this is a cycle. So you cannot rule out basically return of Imran Khan
Right.
because the charges against him or the convictions on
Yes.
charges that were placed on him, they are very
Yes.
flimsy charges.
Right.
So one would hope that the rule of law will take its course and somehow, sometime, Imran Khan walks out of the prison.
Right, absolutely. And last question, Gul Saab, before I let you go, is what happens to Shehbaz Sharif's engagement with India? Is that even being talked about in Pakistan right now? The fact that the Sharifs have a very good equation
I think
with
right
India.
now the entire focus is on Pakistan itself, the internal squabbles, the opposition hue and cry over the systematic rigging in the elections. So first, I think once we get over this in the next few days, probably then will come the issue of the foreign relations with India. India itself will be also moving into elections.
Yes.
So it will, I think, the ball will be in the court of the Indian government of Modi ji as to whether he wants to reopen the door of dialogue, contacts with Pakistan.
Right, absolutely. India heading into an election even as we speak, as Pakistan is forming its new government. How stable will it be? It seems to be a pack of cards with its own problems, a crown of thorns that Shehbaz Sharif is going to wear as Prime Minister. But thank you very much, Gul Saab, for your thoughts this evening on Pakistan's political instability and the challenges that the new government will have to face. But Deepak, very quickly, on the 8th of February, when Pakistan was going into elections, we had a discussion on Kartikeya Sharma's show, and we came out with three forecasts. The first one, of course, was that Imran Khan is very popular, and if he won, it would, if he was allowed to contest, he would win by a landslide. He was not allowed to contest, but they won by a landslide. His candidates won over 93 seats, fell short of a majority. The second prediction was that Nawaz Sharif was not as popular and as powerful as people thought he was. And this is bang on because he fell short of a majority. Extremely embarrassing. The reason he's not Prime Minister. And the third is the fact that Maryam Nawaz would be Nawaz Sharif's heir. And that came true. She's the Chief Minister of Punjab. So just take a look at our predictions that we made on the 8th of February regarding Pakistan.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.